Welcome to Quilt and Code. Today is the second installment of our Frost Hill series. We're doing the Wander Lane series by Nancy Halverson, and I'm working on the little quilts, the mini quilts. And so today we are working on this very, very cute fox mini quilt. He's only 6.5 inches. It's so much fun. We are going to learn today one of my techniques for doing applique, and I'm going to give you a few hints on the way. I am trying something a little bit different with this project, and so we're going to just experiment together. But before we get started, I just have to tell you about this wonderful story of my dog and this beautiful red dog. A while back, we had some guineas, and there was this gorgeous red dog with this beautiful bushy tail, playing with the guineas. I was trying to get them accustomed to the yard, and so I had him a little pen, and my dog went out there. Oh my gosh, they played in that yard for hours. It was the most adorable little escapade for my dog. And I just loved every single minute of watching them through the field. This was the most gorgeous red dog I'd ever seen in my life. Well, as you can probably tell, the story goes that my neighbor saw the red dog, took care of my chicken problem, and honestly, I didn't have chicken problems anymore. But I also never saw the red dog again. I choose to let that go, but I know her grandson took care of my chicken problem. But that was one gorgeous fox that was not a dog and didn't realize it for hours. But boy, I've never seen one like up close and personal, except maybe in zoos and stuff. And so and I wasn't really up close to the beautiful red fox, but it was absolutely gorgeous. And so I sort of feel like maybe this live, a little bit of energy coming from that poor soul up in heaven that is not anymore. Anyway, we are using the Frost Hill series. And so what we're going to do now is I'm going to teach you a little bit about how I go through my appliquing technique, how I want to, that type of thing. So we're going to talk about, the things that I used for this project are, I like heat and bond fusible web. And that is my favorite. I've tried all sorts, and that's my favorite. I feel like it doesn't gum up my needle. It's easy for me to use, except for sometimes I have some problems getting off the paper, but I'm going to show you some tips for that today too. Anyway, so I have already fused my parts, and so Derek might have my little thing over here showing my little parts. I've already fused all those parts to the pieces that I wanted to use for this. And I've used a variety of scraps. For these projects, I have yet to pull out or cut any fabrics. I am using all scraps. So for the back, and for the backing of this project, I am using these are all scraps, but I'm using a sky fabric. I'll even put it over here so that you can kind of see it. A sky fabric, and I'm using the Wander Lane. Beautiful, it's just a like viney with blueberries on it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then I've also gone ahead and lined up a couple of things. I've noticed as I've laid this out, and I didn't want to quite fix it yet because I wasn't sure how, I wanted to make sure that I could teach you guys how to do this. But I've got my fox here, and I've put the legs on my fox. And I noticed in order for me to get my legs to line up here, I was going to have a little extra down there at the bottom. And so I went ahead and I have not taken off the paper from my fox because I knew I was going to be layering some things on top of him before I put him onto my backing piece. And so for the fox, I went ahead and took off the backing, it makes that fabric into like a sticker. And so you can stick it on and iron it down, and it's good to go. And so I am going to go ahead and just trim those feet just a little bit so that they line up with the bottom of my fox. Okay, so that's a lot better. All right, next thing I noticed is that this is something I have never done before. And what Nancy has done is she has put the hat And so we have slits in the hat, and we have the slits to go into the ears. Isn't that the coolest thing for our hat? And I'm going to ask Derek if he can see what I'm doing. Derek, am I showing this correctly? Awesome. And so there is my hat. That's where I want my ears to be, okay? My ear pieces, though, these white pieces and the face of my my fox, they need to go up under here so that I have that ear up here and the fox nose coming down here. So this side fits beautifully. I love it. I think it's great. Okay. But this side, I am not so, I feel like I didn't cut it right. And I've gone back and looked at my directions and yeah, I cut it right. I think I just need to trim off some in order for me to be, um, good. And maybe it is that I'm just not sticking it in there right. And so, oh wait, I might have lied. Now that I've got the little hat on there a little bit better than I did earlier, it looks almost like I'm okay. All right, I'm actually okay with it. I think. Maybe I want to round him a little bit. Yeah, I think I want to round it just a little bit. And I can. It's my project. I can do whatever I want. There we go. I think I'm going to like that better. It was just a little too triangle-y for me earlier. Okay, and I definitely want, that white coming down here to that pinnacle, and I want to make sure, let's see, move my birdie out of the way. I want to make sure that I'm covering as much of that brown as possibly can and still seeing my ears come through well. There we go. So I am currently placing this down on parchment paper. So, oopsie. So that I can save my ironing board. How many of us have put that stuff on the ironing board and all of a sudden your ironing board is ruined? Okay, come on now. I think I'm going to do one at a time. Wouldn't that be smart? So I know that my hat is as far as it can on this ear. So I'm going to go ahead and get this guy down right here where I want him. Get up there. Looks pretty good to me. Okay. I am going to iron just a little bit, just to hold it in place. Right there. And now I can mess with the other one without worrying about that one shifting all over the place. Okay, so now I can get this guy into place. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. Oh. Make sure that my ear is down as far as it can get. I chose to use some batik for the hat because I knew that I was going to be slitting that hat, and batiks do not fray as much as regular cotton does. And so I thought, well, since I'm going to be doing that, I don't know I want to make sure I'm not fraying, getting threads everywhere while I'm messing around and doing this. All right, so its little head is just absolutely adorable. Just ironing that down so that when I go to do everything else, of course, my fox, I'm going to have to figure that out when I go to tear off my fox, but I don't have it down enough that it's going to be a problem. Okay, now the other thing I want to do is that he's got a nice little tail here. Whoops. See, that's where the fraying comes in. That fraying came from there. Comes right off. Okay, so this one I'm going to do right here. And just go ahead and get my tail on there just like that. All right, cool. Now I can take the backing off of my fox. And so you can see that just slips right off. Now I've got my ears to worry about in here. And so I'm just going to tear this right here. Oh, I'm out of frame. Thank you, Derek. And tear that out. And then I can come in here and peel these ears right here. And it's good to have nails, but if you just sort of bend it a little bit, works really nice. Okay, boom, excellent, worked just perfectly. Okay, excellent. So I have most of my little fox ready to go. He's going to need some eyes that will give him so much character. He's got his feet, and we're going to give him little, balls for his hat. I mean, like, it's so cute. All right, so we can place, move this out of the way for a bit. We can place this so onto right here. But before we do that, I wanted to, this is an experiment for me. I have been experimenting with whether or not I like using starch better to make my fabrics not shrink, my fabrics not be really stiff and that type of thing. And I wanted to know today if I was able to use some lightweight fusible interfacing, if that would do the trick, starching sometimes takes me a while. And so I just thought maybe this would be a simpler step. I used to do all of this without any type of stabilizer or starching or anything like that. And I've always had fine results. But when I took a class recently, she used a lot of starch, and then she also used an iron-on interfacing. And so I thought, well, you know what? Let's experiment. Let's see if you like this. I do like the stiffness of the starch, but it takes me forever. And my husband complains about the smell. And so he gives me a rough time every time I do it. I mean, not that I'm going to stop just because he's uncomfortable, but I just wanted to know if maybe I could get away with just this and I would still enjoy the quality of the result. And so I am going to iron this on to the back. You want to use the shiny part, which I don't think I am. Let me see if I am. Oh, yeah, I am. Okay. Make sure I'm using the shiny part on my, where I really want that to be is where my stitching is going to be. So if it is like right here, I can see that it's not completely covering the fabric, and that's fine. I want it to be where my applique stitching is going to be. I'm going to tear it off after that anyway. So as long as it's on the center of my piece, I'm not really that concerned. So it'll be interesting to see if I like this a little bit better. All right. Sometimes it's nice to use a little bit of some moisture with that interfacing, because that interfacing sometimes will adhere better if you have some moisture with it. Okay, so here's our little fox. And little fox is going right onto his little thing right there, but I have a guide right here that's telling me exactly where to place everything. So he actually needs to be over because he has the cutest little bird that's going to sit on his tail. I wanted to make sure that I want to make sure that I have plenty of room over here on this side. And so I think I'm gonna move him over just a little bit. I want to make sure I have a 1/4 of an inch all the way around, at least. Okay, because sometimes you got a little shrinkage and stuff, so you want to make sure you have plenty of room over there. We have a family of cardinals right now living. There's 10 of them in our yard. The red ones, which means the mamas are there too. And they're just every morning. And right now we have snow everywhere, and it's just absolutely fantastic. And so this is my tribute to my gorgeous cardinals in my yard right here. And then you can't, they're friends. The fox and the hound, they're friends. And so they had to have matching hats. So they have matching hats here. So I'm putting a little hat up here. And then I have a brim, and I have not taken the backs off of these. And so you know, see how I am not even nice with it. I just twist that sucker right up and get that stuff off. And oh my gosh, the minute you put the brim on, it's just perfect. Okay, so there's the brim. And then I think I don't have, oh, so I have most of it in place. I've got some mushrooms over here that I'm going to be putting in place. And so let's see. Actually, the mushroom goes here, but you know, he's kind of close to my sweet red fox. Okay, so it's brown, but it is what it is when you have snow and you can't get out of your house. And so we're going to put the little one here and the big one there. And just making sure that I still have my 1/4 inch here. And then I've got little stems to go with them. At least I think I do. Excellent. Tidying over here. And so put this right here, just like that. Oh my God, I love mushrooms. If you love mushrooms, please comment because mushrooms are all the rage right now. And so I'm going to put this guy down here so he kind of overlaps. And I don't think I checked my paper off of my mushrooms. So we'll take the paper off. There's paper everywhere now. And there's not anything you can really do with that paper. It just unfortunately has to go into the trash. Okay, cool. He's ready to go. And let's see. Maybe we'll move the little foxy down here a little bit. There we go. So that he's sort of lined up a little bit with the mushroom stems. And I kind of want this mushroom just because. Kind of want them to overlap a little bit. Get over there. I need my tweezers. They're in my bag. I love it. I love it. Okay, so this is why I love applique right here. They just tell such stories. All right, now I have everything down except for the beak of the bird. And I just wanted to show you that when I'm doing all this cutting out, I do a lot of it on my couch at night. And so while I have a movie on or a audiobook going or something like that, I'm just sitting and relaxing and I just cut. And so when I get to small pieces like this one right here, I leave them on a bigger piece of fabric. Otherwise, I know I will lose it. I am surprised right now that I still have the brim and the little stem. That is, yeah. All right, cool. So give that a little wonky tilt here. Let's see if we can give this one a little wonky tilt. Oh yeah, okay, I'm good. And then I'm gonna cut this little itty bitty beak out and then we'll be able to iron it down and start adding the real stuff. So when I stitch all this stuff down, today I am going to use an iridescent sulky. Normally I use a clear. I am using an iridescent again because these little projects give me an opportunity to test out what I like and what I don't like. And so this iridescent I've never used before. And so I thought, hey, why not? So I'm going to gently lift this down and stick this beak right underneath there. Oh my God. Okay, and you got to go down a little bit because you're no longer sitting on his. There we go. I might be able to. Yeah. There we go. And then let's see, my brim. I think I actually want him to go the opposite way. It's hard to do this upside down. Okay, come on. There we go. All right, now the nice thing about using a single iridescent or clear thread is that I can do all of this at once, okay? And I really just want to tack her down. This project is going in with the snowman from last week. It's going into a bag. And so I want that bag done pretty quickly. I'm not wasting time. I want to be able to use it while it is still cold. And so next week we're going to finish that bag because I am ready to use it. I am ready to iron. Now, it never fails that I have forgotten to take the paper off of one of these elements. Never fails. So we're going to find out if I actually did it today. So when I am ironing, I'm not actually ironing. So when you iron, you're actually moving your iron. I am going to press. So I'm simply laying it down. I will have better luck with things not shifting if I simply lay it down. The first thing I do too is once I get it sort of heated down and going, I sort of look and I say, okay, who shifted while I was putting this down? All right, this looks really, really cool. Okay, now I am gonna let it actually iron a bit. And I recommend that when you're putting your heat and bond onto your fabric, that you let it cool before you start cutting. And the same thing goes for sewing. Well, I just happen to have to set up my sewing machine anyway, so it will be cool, but you don't wanna mess with this thing while it is warm. That glue needs to dry. It needs to relax and set. And so I will like pick it up just to make sure I didn't forget anybody. Looks like I did pretty good today. So while this is cooling, I'm gonna turn off my iron. Don't need that anymore. I'm gonna move my sewing machine into, whoops, change my stitch length. So now I've got to change everything again. And I'm gonna move my camera over here while this thing cools. It's still pretty warm. And I am using this sulky iridescent. So I have never used this before on an applique project. I like to put my threads behind my machine and just let them sit there. Some people put them in a cup, but when they're up here or in here, they seem to spin a little bit like that while I'm sewing, and it tangles, doesn't give me the tension I want. Sometimes it gets caught down below. I've had better success when I leave my thread behind and just bring it up and let it pull off of that thing right there. All right, so I have a glorious needle threader right there so that I do not have to, I mean, like if you get a machine, that might be one of the things that you look for, is that a needle threader, and the Eversones are fantastic for that. Okay, so I have a gray down in the bottom of my machine, and Derek, how does it look? Can you see what I'm doing here? And yeah. Okay, and then I am going to use a stitch that goes forward 3 and then over, forward 3 and over. And so that just is going to give me a nice stitch to hold everything down. I am decreasing my stitch length so that they're nice and close together so that I can get around there pretty quickly. And let's see, oh, it feels like it's really stiff. I'm not sure if I like it or not. I might like just sticking with the I do really like stitching on the starch, so I might need to stick with the starch. I'm going to start with a nice big spot. I usually start with the tiniest little things. And actually, I think I will start with the legs because they're nice and straight. I can make sure that my stitch length is what I want it, although I'm not sure how I like the iridescent thread. So we're going to go up here. And this is a nice straight spot as well. And that way I can just test and make sure that I have the stitch length the way I want it. I have the, there we go. I have everything the way I want it. So here we go. The other thing I do is that on your machine, if you have a machine like an Eversone, or if you have a machine that has a circle with a dot in the center, that is your tacking stitch. So if you push that button, it's going to go down a few times, and then that you're tacked in place. And so you can then cut that thread. You could also simply go backwards and forwards. And so you can see how quickly this goes, this little just holding the stitch down. And I like to, oh, and it gives this like, oh my gosh, it's giving this like glitter look. Oh my God, I love it. So I might have a new thread that I thought I would try this because it is kind of snowy. We'll see how it looks on the brown and stuff, but it looks pretty good right now. And one of the reasons why I love using the clear threads is because the clear threads just disappear right into your fabric. So if you make a mistake, who cares? And so normally I use, especially on my lives, I use my clear thread. This is not going to hide as much as my clear does. I have to pay a little bit more attention. And then you can see that as I go around curves, I'm just, I can hear it too. The machine is going through that paper. And so I don't know how much I like that. All right, so I finished with the white and now I'm gonna go around my bird and I'm trying just to get a little bit in there. And so I don't like as much on the colored fabrics. And so what I might do is simply go back and I have a variety of colors and I might fix that and do that later. So I think what I'll do right now, since I don't like that, is go straight to my whites, finish up my whites, and then I'll tell you what the next step is. So I want to make sure that I teach you some of the embellishment techniques that I want to do. So I have a couple of buttons that I want to put on. And then I also have for the, sounds like my bobbin is giving me a fit. So I'm going to change that out. And no, everybody looks good. Everybody looks good. Oh, something's pulling though. So when that happens, I always rethread.
When did you last change your needle?
And change your needle after you rethread. You know, it gets caught up here, and sometimes my bobbin, the thread doesn't go directly into that little. It looks great. Okay, I want to show you that. Sometimes you just never know. There she goes again. Oh, it's the thread. It probably does need a new needle because my my thread is gathering. So, you know, some threads will, just like some interfacings will gum up your needle, some threads will also gum up your needle. So that's good for me to know that I either need a new needle or I need, and we're going to find out because I'm going to change threads. Oh, right. This is an iridescent thread. So my mom in the background is saying, ooh, maybe you need an iridescent thread. I mean, a metallic needle. So I have some gorgeous blue thread here that I am going to use for the hat, since I'm not quite like iridescent on the colored fabrics. I do love it on the white though. The white is popping right out. And so I am going to use this blue thread. See, I had it in just in case. Oh. And then I can start showing you some of my little embellishments, because I can do those embellishments and then go back and get some of this other stuff done later. All right, cool. And then this is a Janome, and it's just it's got that nice, it's a Janome thread, and it has a nice glossy to it. I have actually switched over to Filtech, but I'm trying to use up my old stash. And it's really nice to work with. All right, I am going to do a tack. And of course I'm off, so I am glad I checked. I went really, really slow. And then I'm getting to the ear. I'm going to hop over that ear, and I can take that thread out later. And then so I'm hopping over the ear and I'm tacking again. That way I can just cut those threads off when I'm done. I don't actually have to be so precise here at this head. You're going to see why with my embellishments, or the tip of the hat. because we're going to put a little button at the top of that hat. All right, now I'm at an ear again, so I am going to go ahead and just tack that down and come right in here. And pivot. The nice thing about the sewing machine is that I have a button that actually puts my needle up and down. It's awesome. And I'm off a little bit, but since I'm using glue, you won't be able to tell. I'm an instant gratification quilter. There are times when perfection come into play, but this is not one of them. All right, so I have finished my hat. I have lots more that I need to still applique on this project, but I can go ahead and get a couple of embellishments done before I do that. So, and then I will let you go. So I have, for the tips of the hat here, I have, let me see if I can move this out of the way so you can, I have some buttons. And so I picked out several buttons. I kind of wanted to put a white button up here at the top of the hat. And then I have a couple of like little, I will move it up, I promise. Little aqua buttons here. You can't see it because the light is bad too. So there we go. Okay, so we're going to put a button here and we're going to put a button here. And that's not going to affect me in finishing my project at all. And then it also calls for a button on top of the bird hat, but I will do that later. I just wanted to show you how you can use your buttonhole stitch in order to do this. And so you do not have to, like, you're not doing anything right now, but using your machine. Instant gratification. I do as much as I can on the machine before I get to my hand stitching as possible. Okay, so I am gonna pull these over to the side and pull out my button foot. You might not even know you have one of these. This right here is a button foot. What you're looking for is a piece that can go onto your machine, and you want this like little hook thingy to go in the back, okay? And then this right here, it might look different, but this right here is where it's gonna hold your button in place. And this in particular is a little bit of a rubbery piece. And so it sort of keeps that button from slipping all over the place. And so I can just change this button foot out and put my foot on right here. And then I can take my button. And the thing about your button foot is that you want to make sure, I'm going to switch over to a zigzag. I want to make sure that my zigzag is as small as it can. Now, there are button stitches on your machine. Sometimes they are a circle with two little hot dots in it. And that's what it means to be a button foot. That's to put buttons on, not your buttonhole foot, your button foot. All right, so I'm going to move this up a little bit closer. Derek's going to tell me if I'm good. And I am going to trim some threads. There's threads everywhere. There's thread everywhere. Okay, there we go. That's a little bit better. So I can put this button right under there and it's going to hold it in place once I get it there. Okay. Sometimes tweezers help, I admit. It is a tiny button. It is a tiny button, and I'm going to show you what to do then because it is a tiny button. So I go ahead, get it as in place as I can. Scissors, tweezers, anything that can help you get that button positioned the way you want it. Now, not all buttons are the same, right? Some of them have holes that are close together. Some of them have holes that are far apart. So you can move that on most machines. If a button is a thing that you can do, then on most machines you can change that zigzag to be smaller, okay? And I mean, zigzags, that's a normal thing for you to be able to make your zigzag smaller. You also want to make sure if you don't have your button function, that you are changing your stitch length down to as little as you can go. You don't want to go over your button. You just want to stay in the same place. Okay. So I am knocking that sucker down as far as it will go. It's going down to 0.3 for me. All right. And so it's going to pretty much stay in place. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to double check now that I've gotten it that I am not going to hit my button. I have broken a ton of buttons because the minute that needle hits the button, it's all over. Okay. And so I could actually make this just a little bit bigger. I made it too small. So let's see how that goes. Awesome. Okay, good, good. Okay, now that I've got it in place, I am going to tack in place. And then I am going to do just a few stitches. So I can use my up, down. And then on the other side of the hole, I'm going to do another tacking. And then pull it right out. And I do actually need to change my needle. But that shows you, because the thread is starting to fray even with this needle, or even with this thread. So it is the needle. So right here, you can see how I've done that. And then I could go back and do the other side, but I don't really need to. This is just an embellishment. And I'm going to do the same thing up here, and I'm going to do the same thing down here, and I'm also going to do the same thing up here. All right, so the last little bit of embellishment that I wanted to show you today is a little bit of hand sewing. And I am going to get out my, my DMC floss. I am using black, and I've got to get my needle. All right, so for this, I want to put a little eye onto the bird. I am actually going to use some little buttons. They're little gems. They're not even buttons. I'm going to use gems for, yeah, I'm going to use gems on the fox, but I am going to do a French knot. I am learning. I am new to all of this hand embroidery stuff. I love it. If I want to do these embellishments, then I need to learn how to do this. And so I am going to show you how to do a French knot. Hopefully. May take me twice, but not 3 times. I can do this. And so, and if I can't, my mother is standing off in the background. She is the expert teaching me how to do all this hand sewing. So I will pull her in if needed. Okay. Let's see. And then I had a wonderful young lady who I just taught beginning quilting to, who taught me how to thread needles. And I'm like, I might be forever in her debt. Oh, wait a minute. Nope, maybe not. Well, and that's okay. My glasses are hiding back here somewhere, so we're okay. She was so cute. She was like, oh, do it this way. And lo and behold. But the other thing that I've done is I've gotten a nice magnifying glass at home, and to use when I'm doing my hand stitching at home. And I feel like I'm 16 again threading these needles. Oh, I love it. So I am going to also trim this off really good before I do this. All right, let's see if between her and the glasses I can do this time. I am using just a regular needle. I like a big eye. I don't like to have to fight with my eye. And so I think I'm using a number. Yeah, I think it's a number 8 embroidery needle. And then to knot, this is how I knot my needles. I put my thread between my forefinger and my needle, and I just go around a couple of times, hold that in place, and at the end, I'll end up with a nice knot. And I use this for everything. I use this for all my hand sewing. So if I'm binding or whatever, I use that particular knot. I am gonna just pull these through a little bit on the back side. And then I'm going to snip these off nice and close. That way my threads are out of the way. There we go. And then I can pull those a little bit again, and that will pull some of that extra through. All right, so here we go. Okay, first thing I'm gonna do is go up. I'm gonna check. Okay, I want my eye like right there. So I am gonna go up from underneath, and I want it right about there. No, he's a little too high. Maybe right over here. Oh no, I probably should have left it where it was. Okay, that's okay. All right, and now what I'm going to do is I am going to wrap around right down here at the very tip of the needle and go in at the same spot and come down. And I only wrapped it a few times. And then I'm going to come right in. And it was on the first try. And that just gives me a little, oh, get it closer to the camera. And that just gives me a little bit of texture, a little bit of a dot to show you that, that it's there. Now, I have one that I wanted to be a little bit bigger, and so I used 2 strands of black and a strand of white, and that just made it was really cool. And so who knows, might go back and do that this way. And then to knot it on the back side, I pretty much do the same thing. I come in and twist around. I'm making a mess back here. And come on now, there you go. And then I have a nice knot in the back. It actually isn't a very nice, pretty knot, but oh, there it goes. At first you don't succeed. Try not to act surprised. So there we go. I have shown you what you need to do to accomplish this little foxy block and adding a couple of embellishments. Next week, we're going to turn this one and the snowman into a nice winter bag. I need something to hold my notebooks. So you know me, notebook covers. And then next Monday, we are continuing our series of the Hanky Challenge and taking a whole bunch of hanky napkins and turning them into a plethora of projects. And the first one is going to be a little bag. And so join us next Monday at 11. If you have enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and share this video. I will be back on Monday, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.